Hello and welcome to another episode of Dana Does. In this video, I don't have a cube for you, but I have speedcubing tricks, specifically competition practice oriented, specifically World Championships 2023 in Seoul, Korea. It's been a while since some of these big competitions, or maybe you're attending your first big competition, so here's what you need to know about preparing. Firstly, don't over-prepare. Especially as you get closer to a competition date, don't try to learn new algorithms or methods. It might not be enough time to ingrain it in your muscle memory, and I've definitely been guilty of trying to learn algorithms right before a competition, only to get those algorithms and mess them up in the competition. At the point that you're attending a big competition, all your algorithms and recognition should basically be instantaneous. So make sure to trust yourself, your brain, and your fingers. Secondly is the way I go about practicing changes before a big competition. Namely, when I normally practice, I listen to music, I watch TV, or I watch a YouTube video on the side. And during a competition, when you're competing, you're not allowed to do this. So when I'm practicing before a big competition, I make sure to not be listening to music, watching TV, or YouTube, as I said before. You want to sort of simulate what it's like to be in a competition environment. And a few ways you can do that is to block out the distractions I said before. Additionally, I also find it useful to have competition videos or videos of people solving in the background to sort of give you that background noise that you might experience at a competition. In general, the practice should try to mimic what you're going to experience in competition as closely as possible. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly the same, but you can do the best that you can from home. I also do try to use smaller competitions as ways to practice being in a competition. For me specifically, that has to deal with practicing my nerves and practicing different habits I have before solving, just to sort of get everything tuned and dialed before a big competition. The last 3 tips that I have are for once you're at the competition, how to make sure you perform at your best. So tip number 3 is to make sure you have all the tools you need to be able to get your hands in prime solving condition, I suppose. So for me, that's a hand warmer. I find a hand warmer immensely useful because my hands get really cold when I get nervous, and when your hands get cold, you can't turn as fast, which obviously is not great. On the counter side, if your hands get warm or they get sweaty, I know a lot of people use towels. That also helps to wipe off sweat and stuff. And the last thing I also like to do, I like to wash my hands right before I solve, because I find that after scrambling or running for a long time or practicing for a long time, I get cube lube all over my fingers, and you don't want to be solving with that because it can lead to slips and slides, which is not good. Tip number 4 is to make sure to warm up before your events, but don't be too warm. It can vary for event, but in general, you want to be warm enough that your fingers can move at their top speed, but not warm enough that you tire out your fingers. I often have a problem with big cubes. If I do too many solves, my fingers get tired for the actual solving, but if I don't do enough solves, I haven't sort of gotten in the mindset of the look ahead that you need for those types of cubes. Tip number 5 is to make sure to compose yourself and breathe before you solve. The main thing this is for nerves. I have struggled with nerves for quite a few years, and honestly, the things that have helped me the most are going to more competitions so you feel more comfortable in the environment, and also mentally being in the right headspace. You never realize how much of a mental game cubing is until you get super nervous at competitions. So for me, to get into the right mental headspace, I make sure to take deep breaths right before I solve, maybe close my eyes, try to imagine a beach or somewhere else serene, and just take deep breaths, as that can calm your heart rate and just sort of calm you down. And the nerve thing, it does come over time, so the more competitions you go to, you tend to get more comfortable in these situations, so that also helps. So that was 5 tips that I have for preparing for big competitions or just competitions in general. I will be following these as I get ready to compete in US Nationals and World Championships. So I hope they do well for you. I hope you do well at your competitions. And again, this was an episode of Dana Does. Thanks for watching.